Welcome back to Fenris Garage. In today's episode, we're going to change hats. I'm going to put on my auto-electrical hat, hence the red arc jumper. Today I've got a customer that was looking for a solution to put some spotlights on the front of their new MU-X, 2023 MU-X. The solution was STEDI. So I've been using STEDI since the day they started. It's really high-end lights, top quality product, built and manufactured really well. I've relied on these products for quite some time. What I'm going to be looking at fitting today is the rally bar that goes into the grille of the MU-X to mount the lights on. They're also after a UHF radio. We decided on the Uniden Explorer pack. What I'll be doing is starting off by mounting the rally bar and getting that through the grille, all the arms and everything. I'll take you through that process and the way I do my wiring and the reasons why I do my wiring. So this is also a little look into the future of this channel as to where I'm actually taking you. When it comes to auto electrical work, there's multiple ways of doing things. I'll show you how I do things and the reason why I do them, and guide you basically on the right way where you're not going to have issues, it's going to be safe, and you can guarantee that it's going to continue working for you. So they decided to go with, as I said, the STEDI Rallye bar. So you can see it's the bar here. It goes through and they're able to mount lights, and this is a cheaper option for customers that want to get lights or spotlights on their car but not having to mount a bull bar. There are other ways to do it with a number plate mount, but they don't have the general much sturdier mounts to do that. They'll wave up and down on the number plate mount. They decided to go for the STEDI 7-inch Type-X Sports and the Uniden Escape pack. So this is what we'll be looking at fitting it to today. This is the 2023 ISUZU MU-X. So just to go through a little bit of it, these are the brackets that mount behind or in front of the rad support here, and these are the arms that go through the grille to mount up onto the rally bar so you can mount the lights and everything. I'm going to start by removing this top cover here. Just some plugs. My go-to tool is a bent pick tool. Now there's a hidden one under here. You can just sort of bend this up and pop it out. Now I'm noticing on the new model that these top parts get stuck in here. Careful, you don't want to rip it out. There's a tag on the back that you can sort of push in. Yeah, this one doesn't want to come off very easily. There we go, there's that side. Yeah, this one really doesn't want to come off. There we go. Okay, so we need to remove the 2 bolts here at the rad center rail support, and then the 2 at the bottom. 2 at the bottom mount into these and into the corner here where we take out the plastic clip, and then captive nuts are put in from behind to lock in these with a nut. So we need to remove these 2 nuts here at the center rad support. Now just keep these aside because you're going to reuse them to mount when you go to put the bar in. So the top 2 were 10 mil. I'm pretty sure the bottom 2 are 12 mil. Okay, so those 2 center bolts were down here. And they were the 12 mil, so it's either side of that center rad support. Then there was the 2 10 mil either side here. And then down in here, there's 2 plastic clips that you need to remove here as well, so the support can go in behind the plastic and in front of that metal bar at the lower rad support. All right, so there's 2 arms. They're bent in a fashion where the lower part goes to the center mount. You need to squeeze that bracket, as I said, in between plastic, and then down to line up here. Captive nut on the back of here, and then your original nut back in here. So you also want to make sure that you get that bracket down the bottom here behind the center rad support as well, because otherwise it's not going to sit flush. It also needs to go behind the center rad support bracket at the top as well. Otherwise the hole on this side doesn't meet up either. So then for the bolt, and then a captive nut that goes on behind at the top. Just be careful of the bonnet release cable that's also here as well. So they've supplied a captive nut to this arm, but they really should have given you an arm that comes down and angles back down this way again. So you can hold it there while you're tightening up the nut. There's a lot of tension in the support bar that we're putting in between the rad and all that. So it's actually pushing in and it's starting to scratch the paint. Now, I'm not impressed with that. There should be a lot more sort of room to move in that so you don't strip back the paint. So just be careful when doing this. The awkward thing is that they've done it in a way that you can't get your arm into there. So then down the bottom, we put the 12mm back into the bottom of that center rad support, and then with a captive nut and their bolts, we run that through where we took out the plastic clip. All right, so when you're trying to get the bottom bolts in, especially the 12mm in the center on that center rad support, you're gonna have to lift the center rad support up while you feed that bolt through. Otherwise it just drops too far down and you can't get that bolt in because of the pressure from these top bits. So with this captive nut, you need to go in behind the bottom rad support bar, crossbar. So you go behind that and then you line it up to get this bolt through where the plastic clip was, and then in and through to meet up with the captive nut. All right, so I've loosely put in all of those bolts, the 4 bolts, top and bottom. I'll put the other side in now, and then we can look at tightening this all up. Right, so I've discovered there's an issue with the actual bars. They've done the holes at the sides to fit the bolt through, but then when they've been powder coated, they haven't done the hole size down step, so when the powder coat is on, it actually stops the bolt from getting through. It's just that like 0.5 of a mil either side that's stopping it to go through. It's actually probably less, but so I've actually got to use the ratchet to ream that. Right, so I've got all of the 8 bolts in, 4 on each bracket. I'm just going to tighten them all up, making sure that those brackets are square. Just be careful with the one on the driver's side, depending on what country you're in. But this is a right-hand drive. And where the bonnet release cable comes across, just be careful that that captive nut arm isn't going to put pressure or squash that, squash the bonnet release. Right, so now I'm going to get the bracket to go through the grille and mount them up onto the arm. There's one here at the front that goes through, and then 2 at the side for adjustments. And there's multiple holes depending on where you want this bar to come out of. Right, so now what I'm going to do is get these support bars centered through the grille as best I can, sort of leaving the same gap up below, above and below the plastic grille. Then I'll know that I've got an even spread it, and these distances between here and here, and to mount onto the rally bar should line up perfectly. So I'm just trying to get that even gap in the plastic between the top and the bottom, so I know I'm in line. So if I get both of the arms in the same position, then I know that when I go to mount the rally bar, it's all going to line up. So yeah, it's a bit awkward because there's 3 bolts and they sort of slide up and down. You just sort of have to put the pressure on the top one through here to get it to hold, and then find your center and then lock it tight, and then go down and do the other 2 bolts down the other side of the arm. So you can see down in there, this is the nut, and then you've got your other 2 down the side here. You've got to do that on both sides. So it's like holding the bracket on the outside up with your knee, just to make sure it doesn't drop, and then checking it on the outside, then nipping this one up, this top one, and then tightening up the 2 sides. Just be careful with doing these bolts up at the back. You don't want to be bashing your tools into the intercooler and damaging those fins. Okay, so they're both in now, and now I'm going to look at how it configures up onto here. But before I go ahead and mount this, I want to make sure whether I can get the lights on the forward end or on the back end of the mounts, because the mounts come off in a tag and then they wrap around. So I'm hoping that I can get it onto the back side so it looks like a much neater install. If I can't, I'm going to have to turn them around the other way. So I'll get into putting that bar together, and we'll look at which way we can sort of mount these with that sort of room. I can sort of jimmy it up now. Yeah, so the customer's gone ahead and thought they were helping me out by mounting all these parts, but they've actually sort of forgot to pull the rubber in to stop it from gripping into the metal, because there's like teeth on the inside here to help it hold, but they've forgotten the rubber, so it's in the middle of scratching all this bar up. So I'll get these off, and then I'll work out which way I can put these on. Okay, so I got all the mounts off that the customer had put on. Now what he's done, he's left them quite loose, and it's done a bit of damage to the bar. There's quite a few scratches and everything all over it, so I wouldn't recommend it. If you're going to go and buy your own parts and then go to an accessory fitter or an auto-elect, just leave the parts in the box. Generally, if you haven't got all the parts, the auto-elect or someone like me would have all the parts to finish off the job. So I'm now going to mount the bar on, and I'm going to try and pick a side that isn't scratched up too severely. So I've got a choice of big scratch here or lots of little scratches on this side. So I'm going to go with the lots of little scratches. Right, so I'll just tighten up the bar now. It's got a bit of play in it, so I'll just try and get it as centered as I can. It's just a little bit of a lift like that. I'll just nip them up so I've got a bit of tension there so it holds, and then I can find center. My life. So I chose the side that had the little scratches, and I've just noticed there's a STEDI badge on the left-hand side here. Now that's upside down, so we're going to have to go with, it's on both sides. So now I've realized I've got the bar upside down. I've got to undo it all and pop it around the right way. Got the rally bar on, rally edition. Got it all squared up so it's nice and straight and flat. Now I'm going to look at the way I'm going to be mounting the lights. Now, as I said, there's a tag that comes off the back to bolt the lights to. So I'm going to see if there's room here so I can get the lights snug in towards the back. Hence this becoming sort of like a mini sort of protection bar before a light gets hit or something, if in case they do hit something one day. If I can't, and there's not enough room because of the heat sink on the back of the STEDI lights, and there's not enough room in here behind, I'm going to have to mount them forward of the bar. So the brackets wrap around. There is a rubber insert in here, but I can see why I think the customer didn't put them on, because there's no room. I'll just double click check that clearance as well, but I'm just going to make sure and see this tag here, whether I put them backwards towards the grille, or I'm mounting them forwards protruding forward past the rally bar. So it's tight, but there looks like there's just enough clearance to get it on there, but I'll just see if the actual STEDI light bracket will mount on as well and not interfere with the back. So no, the bracket's not going to fit the way I would like to fit these lights up because of the angle back and the hole. I'm completely impacting on the grille there. Clamp, so I'm going to have to mount all these two clamps forward, protruding. So I'll just get all these rubber straps in between and see if there's enough clearance to get them in, and that'll stop the bracket from rubbing into the bar. Now I've just left them loose for the minute because I need to work out the distance that I need between these two to mount the STEDI light mount onto those. It protrudes quite a fair way. It's like I would have preferred to put it on the back side, but it's just not going to happen. I haven't thought about this a lot. So to get the light to where I want it, I would probably want it further across, but I can't because of the mounting bracket here. But I put one of the clamps either side, but now that I've got these nuts and everything in the way, I can't actually get to the back of the clamps to tighten them up. It's a frustrating install, and I haven't come across a lot of STEDI products like this. They've generally been pretty good, but this one is definitely testing my patience. Like, and then they haven't thought of this either. It's like the nut now, because I need to get this flat around, the nuts for the mounting of the actual rally bar are stopping me from turning it around. So I'm quite confused as to how they think that this is a good idea. Actually, come to think of it, I'm not sure whether these actual tube mounts are the STEDI ones. They came in different brown boxes. So my best thing I think that I can do here is have it sit there, but then tilt the light forward a bit more. So there's going to be like slightly up on I think about a 10 degree angle, so pointing up. It's not that clean a look, but it's pretty much the best I can do. I'll just ask the customer when he gets back as to whether or not these are actually STEDI tubular mount brackets. Because looking at the picture, the other ones are completely different. And I think they actually mount up in a way where you can actually get to all these bolts and sort of things. All right, so I'm just going to show you what I'm struggling with, and this is where it comes down to an engineer and a fitter. So it's the war between us, which is constantly always a problem. And I found this when I was working for automotive companies that, you know, no one in the engineering department would actually think about tolerances and where to fit and how much room you've got and what's going to happen. So you can see here, the lights have to go between that bracket, because otherwise if I've got this part over here, this light is going to interfere with that light. So it has to go either side. The clamps have to go either side of that bracket. So when you go either side of that bracket, you got the issue here with these nuts. So it's not allowing me to swing these brackets or the clamps further around so I can get that to sit flat. So you can see it's slightly tilted up. So, and the other thing too is because I can't bring that all the way around, I don't have much room to do them up. So I'm going to have to painstakingly put my Allen key in and do a turn, because I can't get a tool in there, I can't get a ratchet in there. Also these nuts are getting in the way. So I'm going to have to painstakingly do like a quarter of a turn until I get these clamps all the way up. Exactly the same over the other side. So I'm not sure whether STEDI's got some other brackets that are meant to be going onto this bar, because in the photo they're completely different clamp brackets that go around the rally bar. I'll show you the ones I'm talking about. So you can see here in this photo, they're completely different mounts. So I'm not sure whether the customer sold the wrong part or whatever. And then there's sort of an easier mount and a top mount to the top. And see how they actually sit back in towards the grille? It's a frustrating process. Like, why did STEDI sell this customer those parts for this setup? Like, it just baffles me. And I'm not even sure whether these are a STEDI, but they do have the STEDI part numbers. Anyway, another frustrating part of this, like something simple, like generally when I can knock it, mounting up and putting lights on within about half an hour. This has turned into nearly 3 hours. And getting this right so the customer's happy is my main goal. If I don't have a happy customer, I'm not going to get paid. That was absolutely pox. I can't stand it when people don't think about the fitting process of their product when developing it. Come on. Come on. Nightmare. The risk of scratching everything while putting all these in and the brackets. I've got a feeling that they're not the right brackets and the customer should have ordered these other ones that are in the picture that I showed you earlier. Now I've got both of them on and tightened up. They're on there firm. I really don't like this kick that's happening here. It's just about that 5 to 10 degree. But we'll get the lights mounted now and then I can look at wiring them up. I'm just trying to get them to be in level with the car and not have that kick back in them. So I've just got to adjust for that 5 to 10 degree that I've got going on with the bracket. All right, the lights are on now. Finally. Don't recommend doing this job. If you do, I think look at those other type of brackets. I'll check on the interwebs shortly to see if there is another bracket, to see if this process is a lot easier to do with those other brackets, and I'm pretty sure it is, which is why they were probably developed. So now we'll go through the wiring. Now, new cars, especially new customers' cars, you don't want to be running wire through firewalls, cutting into engine harnesses or body control module harnesses these days. You remember this customer has a warranty on generally their new car. If you go ahead and do that, you are going to be voiding their warranty. You're also going to be running the risk of water going into that grommet. And then, you know, you're causing all sort of problems. I've seen it so many times that somebody wants to fit it up themselves to save themselves just a couple of $100, and they don't have the knowledge on how the car's built, how it's put together, where your entry points are to get your wiring through into the dash so you can mount the switch and all that sort of thing. So I'll guide you through on Isuzu. Every car is different. Ford Ranger, Toyota Hilux, they've all got other ways of getting in. Toyota, very smart. They add in multiple grommets across the firewall to add in accessories in multiple points. Isuzu, on the other hand, have gone in another direction these days since their last model. They have actually sealed off the body. So there's no grommets underneath or entry points into the car. Underneath the car, it's completely sealed off. You can actually see underneath the car, they've got where the grommets used to be, and it's a completely welded in panel now. On the MU-X's and D-Max's in this current 21 onwards model, the only entry points on the D-Max and the MU-X into the cabin are through the inner guards. I'll show you those entry points shortly. And on the D-Max, you do have a couple of grommets at the back between the tub and the back of the body into the cabin. There are also other safe areas to go into. Other than that, the chassis is completely sealed off so that they can go through deeper water now. A lot of adventurers and all that do look at those sort of things when they're buying into a car like this as to what kind of full driving and adventuring that they're sort of doing. It's very important that when you do run these wires through, that it is sealed off and that you're not going to run the risk, because that car will come back to you. The customer isn't going to come and see you first. They're going to go to the dealership first and hit up the dealer as to why water is getting into their car, especially at a dealer fit point where these accessories are fitted at a dealership. That's where they're going to go to first and blame. So I'll get into the wiring for the spotlights. The customer, as I said, is also after a UHF radio. Now, he did want to mount that onto one of these brackets here. I'm going to contact him in a moment and see which way he wants to go, because I'm pretty sure I've got a bonnet mount bracket for that antenna, which I think is a better solution. That antenna sticking up here is an eyesore in my eyes. It depends on what they want. But I think putting it up as a bonnet mount one, the customer will be better off. Right, wiring. Okay, so STEDI and ICE, they develop beautiful harnesses. I even use these harnesses when I fit other brand lights too. They sell the harness as a separate part. It's called the smart harness. It pretty much does everything, depending on whether you've got 2 lights or 1 light bar. Now, it's very simple. In my eyes, it's very simple. So on the harness, you have the relay. Now, a relay is like a switch. It basically takes an input in and then activates, and then takes power from the battery to turn and send the signal out to turn the lights on. It's basically an easy way of taking a very low powered power source, like a 7.5 amp power source, and then turning it into a high powered power source. So meaning that inside the vehicle where the switch is, very thin wiring that goes to it, low powered, out to higher powered, thicker wiring. You got to remember that electricity is like water. The pipes are as wide as how much current can flow through. So if a light needs more current, you need a higher spec gauge or a thicker gauge wire to give it that current so they don't flicker or dim or blow fuses. If you do put high power through a thinner wire, you are going to melt that wire. Hence, you could cause a fire, you could do many things. Or hopefully you've got a fuse on that circuit where it automatically goes, no, not enough current, and just pops the fuse. Always fuse your wiring. The amount of money it would cost for me to build this harness compared to just buying it, you're better off just buying these harnesses. And even if I said, if you're fitting different brand lights, please go to STEDI, or you can go to my new website, which will eventually launch at the end of this year, and you can look at purchasing all these parts off there. The whole reason to this channel and my channel is to go more in depth into wiring, making it easier for you guys to understand, and the better and safer and more efficient ways of doing it. There's also the high-end wiring that I do, where I do Heltech wiring, so complete engine harnesses wiring, everything to start a new motor, to tune it, to do all those sort of things. That's why I'm doing all this. I find that there's a gap in the learning curve and market on YouTube where they skip all this stuff because they don't want to go through the pain. A lot of mechanics don't like wiring. A lot of people hate doing this side of things on their vehicles. When it's shown in a way that you know the vehicle and you know your entry point and the way to run around and get the wiring so it's in a safe area, it's actually not that hard. Positive, negative triggered, positive triggered, either here nor there, depending on what you're doing. I'll explain all that in upcoming videos. So I'll now show you the way I do this to get it to a factory spec, so that it's at that dealership level that my dealerships always expect out of me, and the customers are always happy with me. My customers always come back. Even from the sale of a vehicle, the customer will generally call up the dealership and find me and get me to fit other things or do other wiring for their vehicle, or get the vehicle back and I'll do it for the dealership on site for them. I love this part of my job. It's a very rewarding job, and it's even fun fitting all this gear. Right, so I'll now show you through where I route and run everything. Okay, so 2023 Isuzu MU-X, as I stated before. So the wiring for the lights will go in through one of these grille spots, as close to the back of the light as you can. Try and hide the wiring as best you can so it looks neat. And then you'll come in through here in front of the rad support. And we've got plenty of areas to cable tie the wiring up. The harness will run from this point over here. So the first point I need to find when doing a complete install is find a mounting point for the relay where it's going to mount upright so it doesn't have water going down into it. The best spot on D-Max and MU-X is this 10mm bolt here. It's close to the battery. The closer you can get this relay to the battery, the less you're going to have to extend the wiring for the battery wiring to that relay. It also, the closer you have a fuse to the positive terminal on the battery, the safer it's going to be and the quicker that fuse is going to react to if there's a short circuit. Then I'm going to route the wiring for the switch will go up behind the windscreen wiper bottle, up behind the fuel filter, and then across the back of here. You can just see up the back there is a main harness that runs across the top of the firewall, over the brake booster, and then over to the other side. And from that point, I can go down into the guard. There's a gap down in behind the ABS module there. And I can go on the inside of the guard and then up into the grommet through the inside of the guard and then straight into the area of the switch panel of where I can mount the switch. The other part you need to think about is when wiring up spotlights and things like that is that you need to tap into the high beam. Now in Australia, it is law to only have your spotlights or anything activated via high beam, meaning that they will not turn on unless there is a signal coming from the high beam. In doing so, we'll route all of this and then I'll show you the way I lay it out and how I go about getting this installed so it's neat, clean, and less chance of any problem happening. A lot of customers that I've seen on these brand new model Isuzus are going in through here, which is the main engine harness down in there, and that's a no-no. That's going to void the warranty of the vehicle, and what will generally end up happening is the dealer will point their fingers directly at whoever fitted the lights, and when it comes down to it, they have to pull apart the entire dash to bring the harness back out. So moving all the ECUs, the engine ECU, body control module ECU, pull that out to find the split in the wiring. And sometimes with this wiring, you actually cannot solder it. It is data line, and if you solder a data line, it causes resistance in the line and nothing operates properly. If it's on a CAN bus line, it's even worse. You can crimp a terminal onto it, but then you run the risk of putting the grommet back in and that terminal bunching up and bundling. And in that case, when that happens, in order for Isuzu or the dealership to pass it, they want to replace the entire engine harness. Then you're up for thousands of dollars for just a couple of $100 install. So I'll guide you through everything now on the process and the way in which I run everything. So we'll start with mounting the relay onto that 10mm nut, and then we'll be guiding the wiring through the other parts. There are two ways to tap into the high beam. You can physically solder onto high beam and negative at the back of the light, or you can buy from STEDI or from my website the patch harness to give you the proper connections for the high beam tap into. Either way, it's still simple. The easier way is to buy that T harness, the patch harness to the high beam light. Okay, so just with a 10mm spanner, because you're not going to get a drill in there, loosen off this bolt. Now this is a very important earth. It's an earth that also connects into the body control module. Yeah, the body control module. So you've got to ensure that you do get the earth to go back properly, because you can do, if you do this up too loosely, it doesn't get a good connection and then all the faults come up on the dash. Right, so I just go through there with that bolt, and then it just mounts on a slight angle back into that location. Sort of tilts forward, be towards the front of the car. Make sure you give this a good couple of tight turns to ensure that that earth is going to be a good earth and not give you issues later down the track. Right, so on the harness, you've got positive and negative to the battery. So you can see why I've mounted that there, so it's nice and neat. So I'll just put them out the way. And then also on the harness, you have the high beam connector. I'll put that out the way too. You also got the lead for the switch, which is a much thinner wire. As I said, it's a low power trigger. It's like a trigger to the relay to draw, to then say to the relay, okay, I've got power, I've got high beam on, now start drawing power from the battery out from the relay to turn the lights on. So I'll just move the switch out of the way as well. And then we've got our two plugs that go into the back of the new spotlights. I'll route that in behind the relay for the 12-pin or 7-pin plug at the back of the car, in behind the headlight. So yeah, I'll just show you that again. So behind this relay here, which is generally for the 7-pin or 12-pin, some cars don't have them installed. It's an pre-delivery fitment, depending on what spec you want with your car. And then up through here, and then behind and in front of the intercooler, and then out just near the horn. You can see the horn there. Right, so then I will guide my wiring from the spotlights. So they come with pigtails in case you want to use your own harness, or you want to plug into a different harness. Like, the reason why they do this is the Ford Ranger actually has in the engine bay now all points to pick up and install accessories. Ford Ranger has like a bank of relays already in the car with switches up in the roof that you just basically take these pigtails and you tap it into that relay, and then job's done. It's just a matter of which relay you pick as to which switch it goes to. So I'll route the spotlight wires through the grille. This is a very thorough video. Like most people on YouTube wouldn't show this in depth of where to route everything, how you should route it, and the reasons why. The reason why I'm doing this is because honestly, I'm sick of seeing bad work. I'm over it. Especially with, you'd be surprised with some really big companies here in Australia that the fitment is absolutely terrible, and the way they've routed it, it's just, you can see issues that are going to arise later down the track and just it potentially cause a fire. So I'm going to use those brackets that we've just installed for that rally bar, and I'll go in behind those so it's nice and neat, and I'll get both of them to come up to here. So I'll just plug them in here, and I'll go back around to over the other plug. You want to be careful here as well that you don't put your wiring that interferes in with the bonnet latch and the springs and everything in the mechanism down there, because you don't want it pinching it and then start it and then you blow a fuse. Right, so I'm just gonna neatly follow from the longest point onwards and start cable tying from there, keeping it away from most mechanisms and everything. Don't put too much tension on the wire, you want it to float a little bit. And also, if you leave a bit of slack, if the car has to ever go into the dealership at one stage, the service guys are going to love you because you've actually thought about them, thinking that, you know, there's too much tension, they can't get a part off, the plugs aren't in the right spot, they're too hard to get to, and it just creates grief at that end, which means your service takes a lot longer. So I'll use the bracket for the horn here also, just to run a cable tie around there to hold that away from the intercooler. Alright, we'll snip off all our ends. Okay. Now I'll route that wiring till I get to a point here where I've got the slack hidden up in here behind the headlight, because I don't like to look into engine bay and see a giant bundle of wiring just floating in there. It just doesn't look nice. Also, it's just gonna, if you notice that when you buy a brand new car, it's a clean engine bay, everything's routed properly, everything's in its place. And even when you go to clean the engine bay, because you should clean your engine bay, it all just gathers dirt and crap gets in behind it, not serviceable. So I'll bundle those two wires with a couple of cable ties here, just tuck it in behind that cover. So out of sight, it's still neatly tucked away. There's also a small little harness here. You can just nice and neatly cable tie this bundled up harness to that. Now the D-Max is exactly the same. Now I do offer all these services here at Fenris Garage. So if you ever do want to get me to fit up any of your lights or anything you purchase off there, I do provide the fitting service for that here as well. Okay, so now our next stage is to tap into the high beam. Now, if you don't have the patch harness, and depending on which model ISUZU you got, what spec you've got, whether it's an LSU, LST, or whatever, it depends. They changed the plug to the back of the lights on the D-Max and the MU-X depending on the spec. But generally, on the back of the headlight, high beam is light blue and earth is grey. But sometimes, if you don't find that grey wire and there is a black wire, it means that it's the lowest spec model and the earth is actually the black. So with this model, I've got the patch harness, so I don't need to show you that. But if you do not have the patch harness, the positive, the red wire, will go to the light blue. So you just untape the back of the plug here. Probably a bit hard to see there on the back of the headlight. So you just take that conduit off. Actually, I'll show you. So this is the plug to the headlight. So if you can see in there, there's a light blue and then a grey. Now, depending on the spec, as I said, you might, if you don't see that grey, you'll get a black wire, and the black is the earth. But on this model, positive to high beam is light blue, and grey is the negative. All right. So the customer was good, and they bought the patch harness. So on the patch harness, you've got the input and the output. So basically it's taking from the plug to the back of the headlight. It's taking and hijacking the positive, which is the high beam switch. So that's just plug and play. I will actually go ahead and tape up this as well, just so I don't see like loose wiring and individual wiring. I just don't like the look of it. All right, so I'll just tape up, cover up these wires. So it's just a little bit neater, a little bit more of a factory looking fit. Just like that. Don't go all the way up to the end of the plug because you're going to put too much pressure on the terminals. All right, so then that plug goes into the back of the headlight. And then that gives you the plug to go directly into high beam pickup for the relay. Right, so there is also a separate earth now, I've noticed on the new patch harness, so I'm also going to have to earth that. So in here directly down there is a 10mm with another earth on it. So I'll just get an extension rod onto a 10mm and I'll get that off and I'll be able to put this terminal on down there. Just so I keep everything down low, because I don't want to go back to that relay because I don't want to risk adding more problems to maybe if that's not getting a decent earth connection. Right, so I've got an extension rod. This, when you're working on ISUZUs, is your best friend to get one of these extension rods because there's multiple points in the car, especially at the knee airbags, where you actually have to take off the airbags. And the only way to get it off is with like an extension rod like this. So I'm just removing that 10mm earth. Now I've installed at a previous date, well, before this car was delivered from one of my dealerships, Anderson plug and an isolator for that Anderson plug. So I'm just going under that wiring to keep it neat. There is another harness down there which you can follow and you can cable tie to that. So I've just put that through the ring. And then back onto that earth point. Right, earthed. Now, I'm going to neatly bring this wiring back behind that relay again and tuck that up under the headlight housing. And then I'll put that into a bunch down here. And then cable tie that down to that other harness that's down there. So I'm just folding it over. And then running it down behind my isolator that I've previously installed for the Anderson plug. Okay, and then just to neaten it up, grab that bunch because there's another engine harness down here. I'll just grab that bunch and just neatly cable up the rest of the wiring that goes to the relay along this side. It's a tight squeeze. You can generally get 2 cans in there. Get that all nice and neat in one bunch. There's nothing worse than looking into an engine bay and seeing an absolute spaghetti junction of wiring. I can't stand it. Right, so that's all in nice and neat now. So now we've got 2 more looms to take care of. So the other loom is this one here, which is your battery. Now it's safe now to put this to the battery because the lights or the switch won't get power until the high beam is on. So you're not going to see any power coming out of the switch lead until high beam is triggered on. With the car off, we know we're safe. So the battery terminals are 12 mil. So I'll go on this one here, and then I'll neatly route that earth up and under the main earth to the battery, which goes to the chassis. Back on and under the trigger for the isolator that I've previously installed, because that's a smaller terminal. The earth is back on. So you can see here, this is the factory wiring that just sort of floats above the battery. Then the positive terminal, I'll go off here, where I've previously gone for my power. The reason is that this terminal here is not fused. Now you don't want to go off this one here because you don't want to do more draw over that fuse. This terminal here goes directly to the positive terminal of the battery. This one here that's fused, if you start drawing more off this and you pop that fuse, the customer has to replace this entire terminal. So I'll go under my 8BNS gauge wire for the Anderson plug, and down on top. Now, when you start getting a lot of wiring that's added onto the positive terminal, depending on how extreme the fit out is, you might need to cut out some of this plastic battery terminal. But I've done this multiple times, so I know I've got plenty of room there. This goes on like that. Tuck your wiring down. Now I don't cable tie off a lot of that wiring behind here, because if a fuse does blow, I want the customer to be easily to pick out the positive wire for it and just be able to replace the fuse. So I'll just tuck that in behind. And the same thing I've done with the Anderson plug here. You can see here that the customer can easily get to the fuse in case the Anderson plug ever pops from a short circuit. Still very neat. Right, the switch. These are pox. This is the worst switch I've ever come across. Come on, STEDI. Give me some decent ones. They've done it as a universal harness, and I get it, but it's not nice. If you've got a car that doesn't have any switch panels or anything in it, where you can actually go and source a Nava OEM sort of style switch, this is still not the nicest to go with. It's box. I'll cut that off. So bye-bye. Right, now I need to think about what else I'm fitting. So we've done the spotlights, we've done the wiring. I need to think about getting this switch harness through and into near the dash. And we are also installing a UHF radio. Now, most of the time you'll find that brake controllers are installed by factory, and the brake controller harness goes through the left-hand side, passenger side of the car. So I know that grommet is actually being used right now. There is another harness that sometimes goes through on the high-spec MU-X's or onto the D-Maxes for canopy locking, or I'm not sure what it is on the MU-X that they sometimes run through there. But yeah, it's not as big a wiring as the brake controller harness that runs through on this side. So now I'm going to save myself time, I'm going to look at mounting the antenna for the UHF so that I'm running one harness through and not doing it for this and then coming back and doing it again. Okay, so I've just spoken to the customer. They've agreed with me that the antenna being mounted onto that rally bar at the front is going to be an eyesore sticking out, constantly in the way of your eyesight while driving. Also, it's an unknown factor with the lane departure and lane assist cameras in the front windscreen as to whether or not these antennas actually do interfere with them or could interfere with them. And I don't want to run the risk of doing that. So I get these brackets, and it's a bonnet mount bracket that mounts off the hinge on either the driver's side or the passenger side. They are made for the passenger side mainly because the driver doesn't want that sort of antenna on in that corner of their viewing while driving. So it just goes onto these two bolts here. So with the bonnet, you just want to release one at a time. So I'll start with this top one here. I'll get that hole through and then put the nut back on, and then I'll slide it across and under and get it to bolt up into that second part, the second bolt there as well. So it mounts on top. You don't want to go in between it because then what'll happen is that you'll have an uneven bonnet when it's latched. I'll just loosely get that on there, just so it's still firm, so it still holds the location of where the bonnet is aligned, because there's plenty of play in the bonnet and you don't want to undo it and then it just comes down, the body lines don't match up. And then you know it's also safe to have the bonnet sort of unbolted. That second bolt out now. It hasn't lost its location because of that top bolt still holding the bonnet in line. Alright, it's that easy. Lift them up, and that's done. There it is there, just mounted, and then it comes out and through and gives you an antenna mount just down here. So there's your antenna mount now, and the angle of the antenna will be at like that sort of 45 degree the window. It's not going to interfere the window when you open and close the bonnet. It's a much sturdier mount too. With these new antennas, the fiberglass heavy mount antennas, they're quite heavy, and that spring, when it's in the wind, can cause a lot of sway. If the mount's not proper, it'll end up bending panels or causing issues down the track. All right, so now I'll look at getting that antenna mounted, and it's just through this slot here with a 19mm bolt on the back. I'll close the bonnet so I can tighten that up. And then I'll show you how I run that wiring across the front of the firewall over to that other grommet to the driver's side. All right, so I've got the antenna, it's just the base, this is just the base mount part. So it's a 19mm nut on the base side of here. You wanna know what frustrates me? In this day and age, we still don't have an antenna with a disconnect at this point. Now I'm giving ideas here to some of these big companies as to when something actually breaks on one of these, why is it that we can't just replace this part and just plug it into here? It's very confusing because we've got the screw end for inside the car to go to the UHF and radio, but we don't have it at this end. So when you have to replace the antenna, you have to basically disassemble everything you've done in the vehicle, pull the wiring through, get the antenna out, right? Because you can't solder these. If you solder these, it's going to cause resistance and you're not going to get the better signal that you need. It just baffles me today. I don't know if it's an invention that I need to do, but I don't have the money or the backing to go into manufacturing of this degree. but I can't see why. It's not an easy thing to do for these manufacturers to do it. Anyway, crapping on, blah, blah. I'll get this antenna on. So you can see here, even the nut has to follow all the way through, but we've got the gap on that mount. Now, a lot of the times when I mount a UHF, the bull bar and all that, they don't have that gap to run the wiring through, so you can just pop it on there. So I'll get that on there now. So I've just put it through that gap that went in there, and I'm just going to get a 19mm in here and then twist the antenna. It's the only way you can tighten it up without stripping or damaging the nut or the antenna. If you put vice grips on here, you're going to cause scratches and everything to come across that, and then eventually going to rust. Right, antenna's on. So now routing the wiring for the antenna into the driver's side and the switch for the spotlights into the driver's side as well. So you see here there's a gap. So you can use that gap to guide the wire. This is when the bonnet closes. You'll find a lot of 4x4s will have that gap these days for a UHF antenna. And I'll just cable tie down onto the washer nozzles. Now I'm not going to completely crimp that down or tighten that cable tie up too tight, because I don't want to crush the washer hose and stop water from going through those hoses to the windscreen wipers. Now I'll just follow that washer hose just down, just lightly cable tying around. It's just sort of guiding the wire so it doesn't foul on the bonnet when you close it. You can see there I've got it through that gap nice and neat, and I've got it down to where we can now look at running the switch for the lights from that relay. I'll go down and underneath the washer bottle pipe. It's tight. You can just sort of just come out in between the fuse box and the inner guard. Just pull that through. And then we've got both our wires at one point. So normally, if the car didn't have the brake controller, I'd go down and follow the washer hose into the inner guard and then go in through this side and then back across the dashboard. But from this point, what I'll do is I'll get Conduit and I'll cover up both these wires so they basically look like they're in one harness and looks a lot neater. So I've just got some 7mm split tubing. Where those two sort of wires join up, I'll cover up both of them. And we'll put a bit of tape around that end to stop the Conduit from constantly slipping off while we feed it through. And with those two wires, slip them out this way. Now I do have a Conduit feeder that I normally use, but it's just, by the time I've got it, I've generally done the entire harness. A lot of people struggle with Conduit and feeding wires through it. It's actually not that hard. So it's like, pull and push in. So you're basically using your thumb on the split there, and you're pulling back and then moving on, pulling back, moving on. Just take your time, it didn't take long. And every so often, I'll put a bit of tape around to close off that Conduit split. Now we're going to get to a point here where we've got the connector for the switch. What I'll do there is I'll just cut it off here, just before the switch. Just before the connector, sorry. Over. Take that up. And grab your conduit again. And I'll keep running that down and over. You'll find the UHF antenna wire is much longer than this switch wire. But I know that from doing this so many times that my length for the switch is just about perfect to get into the driver's side switch area. So I've just taped over that to waterproof it a little bit. Right, you just want to leave yourself some length here so you can then solder onto the wires the switch that we're going to put in. Right, so that's done. So I'll just put a bit of tape around that switch wiring so it holds it in place with the antenna wiring. And then I can start guiding this through across the front of the firewall. Right, so the aim here is to get it attached to that main harness, engine harness, and across and over the brake booster into that hole that we've got over in that other guard. So there is a gap that I do need to go behind here. It's a bracket for the air conditioner hoses. So I've just got to go behind that bracket. That way I know I've got this wiring completely out of the way of any engine parts or anything else that could cause anything to go wrong. Just guide that behind that bracket. And then down behind the fuel filter, there's a gap here between the fuel filter and the side wall. You can just push the wiring down between. And then, it's awkward, but I've done it plenty of times, you can reach up, pull that harness away, put your cable tie behind the harness and around the harness that you've just run. Just securing it as tight as you can up against the firewall. And I generally put it up towards the back as far as I can go, so it's right out the way. And I'll cut off that cable tie end. See? Nice and neat, the way I like it. Now we're going to go to the other side and I'm going to show you how I route it through and into the driver's side. Okay, so we're over the other side now. And you can just put it in behind this harness here and above the brake booster. And you'll find you'll get it through the gap above the brake booster, so you can actually just push it in and then over that brake booster. Just be careful here to ensure that your harness that you've just routed is up in behind the brake lines and the air conditioner line. And then you've got the other part of that main harness here. You can grab a cable tie and put that around and behind. So you can see here, like all this water that gathers and then goes down into there. So this is why you do not cut into main engine harnesses or anything, because that water is going to flow down and go straight into your hole that you've just created. And also when you go to clean your engine bay, you've got a higher risk of water getting in through into the interior of the vehicle. Right, so I've got that cable tie around. I'm just gonna give the harness a mild pull, just so it pulls it tight, and that cable tie holds that back and stops it from drooping across the front of the firewall. So now I've got to route this down into the inner guard and then into that grommet on the right hand kick. So it's a hole, there's a horn here. Pretty sure it's a horn. I'm not sure whether this is just a horn or whether it's the siren horn. But yeah, it's just below. If you feel down here, there's the horn, then there's another main harness. There's a hole in there that goes down into the inner guard. It's about, I don't know, 15 mil wide. So you're going to try and straighten out your harness as best you can. All these kinks and all that sort of stop it and fight against it when you're feeding it down through that gap. I'm just going to find that hole and direct it back down towards the back of the car. Because you don't want it feeding back up this way and then you're fighting for it to try and find it inside the inner guard. And it does have a tendency, more than likely, it's quite weird that it keeps pulling itself back towards here. It's awkward, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure this is why a lot of mechanics and all that don't like to do this sort of stuff. Generally, I don't know, it hung. It's the best way to get it through. Works for me. All right, so I can sort of hear it going down in towards the backside of the inner guard, which means that I've got it in the right direction. I'll just leave that loose because I'll get down to that inner guard and release that and then show you how I get in through, and then show you how I get in through that part. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to get access to the inner guard down on the driver's side. I'll show you here. So I need to get access to these bolts here. Right, to remove the flap and then get into this inner guard so I can get into here. All right, so the easiest way is to turn the wheel in the opposite direction, this way, and then it gives you access to all these bolts. All right, I'm just going to turn that wheel the opposite way. Shut it down, and you can see here, this is where we want to get to. I want to get to this switching panel. Now, if you notice, there isn't a spare socket, but I've got a new invention to fixing this problem in MU-Xs. And if you ever own an MU-X and you run out of switch spaces, you know who to call. It's me. Got to get the flap off, and then I can show you where this grommet is to get into the driver's side. So just a 10 mil. Four bolts. All right, and then we can get access into here. Now you can see here, here's our wiring that we fed through earlier. So I'll just pull that down. Okay, so we're through, and I notice, may as well clean the car for the customer while I'm here. God knows how that all gets in there, it's quite weird. There's also a wire going into this grommet already, and I'm pretty sure it's me. Yes, it is me. It's for their caravan camera. So with this customer, I've actually integrated into the head unit so that they can turn their caravan camera on and see what's going on behind the caravan while driving. It's a pretty tricky little bit of gear that I've done. I've been doing this for a long time. It's just in a very expensive process because I've got to take the head unit out, readjust everything, and trick the car into thinking it's in reverse when it's not, so it doesn't turn on the reverse lights while driving and the car doesn't throw all these codes. So I've got to get this grommet out, and with a trim tool, I'm not going to be able to take the grommet all the way out because I've already got wiring going through this grommet, so I'm just going to pull it out to a point where I can actually feed wire through it. So you can see here, there it is. Now, before I go and do this, yeah, so I'm running out of wiring, especially to the switch. So I'm just going to actually look at splitting this here and then grafting my wiring for the switch onto this already so that I'm not soldering down at the bottom and making it awkward for myself. As I said, I don't want to be soldering up in that corner kick. It's a little bit too awkward, so I'm going to add on the switch plug here. So it's like an OEM style switch. It's got the driving lights on there, and this is the harness to it. So on this harness is earth, input, output, and illumination. So illumination is the blue wire. I just know this. They're generally on the back of the switch packet, so you can work it out. Blue is illumination, earth, input, and then output, meaning power in. So when the high beams are on, this has power onto it, and then when the switch is pressed, the power goes out to the green wire to turn the spotlights on. Now, with the illumination, I don't use it. The reason is it gives off this really bright blue light, and at night, when the customers or you're driving, that blue light is kind of annoying in the corner of your eye. So I don't do it, and I don't recommend putting it in because it does become annoying. And also it makes it harder for you to tell whether the spotlights are on during the day or not, because you've got this blue light happening. So it's like, is that blue light for illumination, or are the spotlights actually on? So I'm just going to strip back the wiring about 15 mil. Okay, now you're going to run into this issue where you've got different coloured wires for different things. So when you strip back the STEDI harness, you'll see that you've got different colour wiring. So we've got black, blue, and white. Now I know this from experience, that black is earth. Black could be anything in a car these days. You just don't know. Unless you've got the right circuit testing material or equipment, you're not going to know what wire does what, whether it's a positive trigger or a negative trigger. So we know that black is earth. So I'm just going to twist that around in one line, nice and neat, with no dags hanging off it. There. And I'm going to do that for the other wires too. So I know that white is our input. So that's the power that comes from the relay. So from the head, the high beam switch, when the high beam's turned on, it goes to the relay, and then this is your trigger wire basically. So this is going to have power when the high beam is turned on. So that's our input to our rev wire. So the input to the switch to basically give the switch power. And then our output, which is green, we've only got one wire left, and that goes to blue. Neatly twisted. Turn our soldering iron on. All right, and you're just going to solder it by putting the back of the soldering iron head to the wire to heat it up. Then you're going to feed the wire in from the top. What you're looking for is a glossy, like a chrome. If it's a matte solder, it's called a dry solder, and what can happen there is you can get bad connection issues, like it's actually not connected. When I tell people this, they think, what are you talking about, Matt? Dry solder. It's a known problem. Like people that aren't soldering properly, and it's a very matte sort of finished solder, it's a dry solder that sometimes will not give a connection. We're looking for that sort of chromy, sort of glossy look. Now, I'm not a heat shrink fan. And the reason is that sometimes you get little dags hanging out of this, or you miss some, or I'm going blind these days, so I'll wrap tape around there multiple times, nice and tight and firming into the wire to protect it from shorting out from touching the other wires. And then I'll go ahead and I'll neaten up this harness, tape that up too. Nice and neat. Right. So now we've got to get it into the car. So I've got to go through this grommet. So I'm running my UHF through. And my switch wire. Okay, so I've got too much conduit here, which is going to stop me from getting the wire further in. So I'm going to take this back, and that's where the grommet's sort of going to sit. Cut that excess conduit off and pull this through the grommet further. And then I'll feed that up into this grommet hole and then pointing it down, because the access to get this wire is down here in the lower kick. Even easier to do something just so you don't lose wiring is I'll tape the end of that switch plug to the UHF antenna so it comes through at the same time. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to bring it out and up and into the driver's side of the car. Right, so we're in the driver's side. So there's a sill plate here that I need to lift. You can just pull that up with your hands. Just be careful not to pull too hard because there are clips there. You don't want to bust off the clips. And then we're going to remove this kick panel up in here. So in the kick panel there's this plug, it just unscrews. And you can just lift up the weather seal and pull that corner kick towards you. We can get the kick out. All right, so this is where the kick was. So there's a hole in behind these connection junction, and you can just sort of feel a way around and you probably get the wire pretty easily of what I've just fed through, and yes, I've got it. So there's the UHF wire that's come through. So I'm just going to slowly pull that through. You don't want to put any pressure on it or anything because there is a sharp edge into that grommet, hole. So if you feel a bit of tension, don't pull on it too hard, just make sure it comes through nice and easily. If it does get stuck, then go back to your inner guard and then try and feed it back through, which is what I'm going to do now. Feeding that harness that we've brought across into the hole, including that plug, getting that plug through. It's going to get a stuck point until we get it to go all the way through. And I'm actually going to push that grommet in now. Just saves me coming back across to the front of the car, inside the car again. Right, so there's our plug for our switch. Okay, and you can see why I soldered that outside the car. So I'll just get that grommet in. So then you're thinking, okay, Houston, we have a problem. We've got all our switch banks full. So Matty, what are we going to do? So Fenris Garage, I've had these new switches developed. It's a big problem with the MU-X's and also with top spec MU-X's like X-Terrain, where they've moved away from the factory retrofit of the ToPro Elite, the Red Arc ToPro Elite, to a double socket area CURT system, which takes up 2 slots. So it's causing a lot of dramas across the board for when people want to fit accessories to these cars. And I find it kind of weird that they've gone down this path, because the whole point of having a four-wheel drive and these cars is to go four-wheel driving, adventurous and camping and all those sort of things. So very strange, but anyway, I've come up with a solution. So what I've done is I've made a switch that's dual switching like this camera one, where it turns the fan and the automatic lift at the back into one switch. So you can see here, I've got the fan and the lift back on one switch with a piggyback harness that I've had made. And you can get these off my website. And what you do is you just take those two switches out, which are the fan fan out and the lift back. Wrong one. Lift back is this one. Okay, so those two switches out. Now, what I'm going to need to do here is just bring this other harness across, okay, and they're actually labelled. So this one is the lift back, which will go into the blue plug, this one here, and this other one is the rear fan. Okay, and then that comes out and over into one. Then you add in your dual switch. Okay, and that gives you the lift back on or off. And that just goes back in there. And now we have a spare socket. So I've also developed these switches so that you can do it with fan and light bar or fan and spotlights. Yeah, so it's an easier swap out. So on the version of that, it gives you the two wires, the input and the output, to turn the light bar on and off at this switch. So now that we've got our wiring through, so I'll come up and then go in between the fuse box . Now try and keep your switches above the other harnesses so they don't droop down and interfere with the coin slot when you're opening and closing it. Just get them up and over. And then this gives us our switch for the spotlights. But before I go ahead and do that, I've got to install the UHF. So what I do with the UHFs in the D-Max is I mount the UHF unit underneath the center console, but in the MU-X's I mount the unit behind the fuse box here. So I'm going to tear apart the knee airbag and this area before I re-plug all this back in, so I can get access to the back of there to mount the UHF and then power it up here from the fuse box, and then run the wire across to the center console just below the cigarette lighter socket, where I can actually mount the socket that you can plug the handset into. All right, so I'll just get all set up for that and we'll get stuck into that. I'll show you how to take apart the bottom of this part without damaging anything. Yeah, because it's without that extension that I was talking about before, it makes it kind of hard. Now let's get this UHF in. So with the UHF, you've got positive and negative to power it up, and we want to power it up from accessories depending on what the customer wants. Sometimes customers want to have the UHF powered so that they can turn it on and off all the time with the car on or off. The problem with that is if they forget to turn it off, they come back the next day to a dead battery. So I generally put them on accessory circuit. So we've got the unit, got the power supply to the unit, you've got the antenna which we've already fed through, and you've got the Cat 5 cable that runs from the unit to the connector plug for the handset. So we're going to mount the connector plug for the handset just in front of the gear shift, the automatic gear shift. And we're going to put the unit up in behind the fuse box. We're going to need to remove the bottom of this below the steering wheel, the knee airbag. There's 2 bolts. So there's 2 bolts, there's one here and one here, and then there's another 2 up in these corners, up in here. It's going to be hard to show you, but I'll just bring it across so you can have a look. So there's one of them, and then you've got the same over the other side over that way, and then underneath up in here, and then the same on the other side. So the bottom 2 just with a 10mm, take them out. And then this is where your extension rod comes in, because you're not going to be able to get a drill in there. So just make sure that the steering column's all the way up and you've got plenty of room to get into that bolt. And then just get in and remove it. And then the same on the other side. And then we can look at dropping that knee airbag. So it's in with clips here as well. You just got to give it a firm tug. Now it won't drop all the way, but you'll just be able to get it down to like that. So you can see here, well, you can't really see, but I've already run the switching for the camera system, and the wiring for the Tow Pro Elite, the factory fit one, is also running across there as well. So I'm going to have to unplug all of these switches, get these out the way. All right, and then you've got a plastic screw in here, which you just release with a Phillips. Now it gets a bit awkward here because I don't want to remove the latches and anything, so you got to be careful with all these sharp points on the back of this airbag. So I'll move the switching panel behind that so it doesn't get scratched, and then that gives me access to the fuse box. I'll get as much of that out of the way as I can. All right, and then we're going to have to release the fuse box. You got 2 bolts. So you got one at the top up here. Sorry, 2 nuts, sorry. And another one here, which I use as an earthing point. Now I'm finding across the board with multiple other accessory fitters and companies that they're actually drilling into here with a tech screw to get an earth when there's just there's an easy earth there. There's no reason to drill into somebody's car and cause damage. The less damage and the less interference that you do, especially on brand new cars, it's not going to come back and bite you or get you in trouble at any stage. So we can release the fuse box now, and it gives me access to the back of that. Right, so we've got our antenna, and then on the antenna, the back of the module has got a widened, it's a larger plug, so it comes with an adapter in the kit on that Uniden, so you just screw that in. And then we're going to run this wire up behind the fuse box, behind all the other wires here, out through the top. Then we've got our power harness for the Uniden unit. Okay. And we'll just plug that in. Okay, plug in our antenna. And then also the Cat 6 cable that goes to the handset. I'm going to plug that in as well, which is in the front here. And that lead is going to go from the unit across the dash and then into the center console, like over there. All right. So now we've just got to work out where to mount this. So I generally mount these up in here. There's a bolt up in here that I can get access to, and I can mount it up in there. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. And you also got to remember there's a speaker on the back of these, so you want that facing out, not being blocked off by anything. So facing out for the customer, because the handset does have its own speaker in it, but sometimes they do want to use the speaker that comes out of here. Right, so I've got the cables all, the unit mounted in, and now I'm just going to route my cables just generally. Be very careful here, there's some sharp metal behind here where the airbag wiring goes. You don't want to gouge that wiring across that because it's just going to short out. So there's our one that goes to the center console for the handset, and here is our excess coming off the antenna. So I'll get that out of the way, because otherwise it's going to annoy me. So I'll just bundle that up, tape around it. Right, and then I'm going to cable tie that up to the side here. So it's nice and neat, not in the way, and just in case service needs to get in there and do anything, it's not going to come back and bite you back. Right, so now we need to power it up. So I don't need to go far. So my earth point is here on this side. And then in the world of automotive electronics, we've had these new cool things invented quite a few years ago called fuse taps. And what it does is it gives you the option to tap in an accessory fuse safely. So generally off the cigarette lighter or something like that. To power up something, and it saves you going hunting for wires, damaging other wires in the vehicle. It's a much safer way to go. So on the earth, I'm going to put on a ring terminal. Now I don't crimp with these. They don't crimp properly. What I use is the back of pliers. So you can see here on the back of the pliers, only certain pliers have them. There's like a spot here to crimp terminals, And it also gives a much stronger crimp. And I like to just tape up the end of it. I hate seeing terminal ends. It looks so aftermarket. Right, so there's our earth point. Gather all of our switches and things. And then get this fuse box back up. And onto that side. Mount. Just got that brake controller lead in the way. Just make sure you get the wiring around that arm before you feed it through. There's quite a few things in this car now. There's like dash cam, wiring for the caravan cameras. It's quite a lot now. Just make sure that I've got everything out that I need. If there's anything else added, don't forget to re-earth it back. I just don't want to hand the car over. There's something not working. Alright, so I'm just going to bring the camera back over here. You can see it a bit better. So there's our earth point that I always use. Now, because we've got quite a few things already mounted into here, there's already quite a few things mounted into here where we've used the constant power and the accessory fuse as well. But if I remember rightly, this one here, which is blank, is also an accessory. So I'm just going to get a test light. It's been a while since I've used that fuse. I just want to make sure that that's correct before I go ahead and start plugging it in. So just with a test light, I'm just hoping that when I tap into here, I don't get any power until turn accessories on. There you go. So you can see there it's lit up. If I turn it off, so this is an spare accessories fuse that you can use, which is good. So this is our power wire to the UHF, and this is a fuse tap. This is what I'm talking about. You can see here it's got like the inlet in. So this is the bottom one here is what you're going to be powering off that fuse down the bottom. The top fuse here is where the original fuse goes in, and then this slots into where the original fuse was. So you take the original fuse out, pop that into the top line, plug in your fuse for your secondary item that you're using, and then this goes into the socket of where the original fuse goes. So it's a low powered item, so I only needed 10 amp. Right, and because there was no original fuse in that area, right, I'm just gonna have to grab another fuse. Okay, so you can imagine that if there was a fuse in that spot, I'd take that out. Right. I'd pop that into our top one here. Right, and then the second fuse is powering our optional item that we're installing. Now, it's very important that whatever the original fuse was or whatever the original fuse was, say 15 amp or 10 amp, you cannot put in on this bottom half to power your accessory. If it's requiring 20 amp, you cannot do a 15 then a 20. You're going to cause an issue, right? So what will happen is that this will draw more current, but it's adding together, and then it's going to actually pop or potentially start melting this wire because this is drawing more before this one sees it. So you just mount that in to its socket, just in like that, and then we can come across to here and we can just crimp in that wire. So it's a blue sort of size, so I'll fold it over so I get a better crimp, and I'll push it in. Go ahead and crimp that wire on, and And then we have power to our UHF unit. So you can see that these fuse taps have made life easier for everyone across the board. Saves you hunting down wires, saves you damaging harnesses, all that sort of stuff to get what you need powered up. Just tuck all of that back in over here. And don't laugh at me, because in my world, I like to make it easier for service. So if everything's too tight and there's not much length, it makes it hard for the service guys to get around just in case they need to get into there to do something. So yes, it might be a little bit of a bundled mess there, but visually it's not once you put everything back. At least it gives the service guys that playroom to work on the car. Right. So now we're going to look at putting our panel back. Okay, so we'll start with our new switch that we put in. Okay, and then the hatch lift, and our brake controller. Alright, and then up here we've got our dimming. Bit of tension down here, but it'll lift it up. So airbag. And that's our dual camera switching thing for the caravan. So now we've got that spare socket. Here's our new switch for the driving lights. Focus, focus, focus. Want to play ball, go there it goes. There's that new light switch. So that just slots in there, and then we grab our power for that switch. See how I've gone above all the harnesses so they don't droop down and interfere with that coin pocket that opens and closes. Okay, so I just had to go and get another spare clip that I had because I'd broken the other one. Start now putting in switch panel, and don't forget that plastic clip here. Okay, so clips in. Now, we need to run the cat cable across to the center console. And there's a gap up in behind the radio that you can just feed it up into for the minute, so you can work out your length. Because you can grab it from the other side from when you remove the glove box. Okay, so you see how here it's, even though we've got all these fuse taps going here, they're still nice and neat and easily accessible if anything goes wrong. So I'll just put a cable tie to keep this all as one bunch. Nice and neat and out of the way so it doesn't interfere with the steering column or see droopy wires down below your knees or anything. Another one of my pet hates. Then you've got tags here that go and slot over the top. And to line that back up. And just lightly pushing it in. Just double check behind here before you go and force it in or push it hard, that there's no wires caught in between those metal mounts, because because the last thing you want to do is like crush a wire in between there, and then you end up spending the next couple of hours repairing that wire. And wherever there's too much pressure generally means there's a problem. So just want it, there you go. So if it goes in nice and smoothly, you're all good. So then we're going to put these bolts back. Be extremely cautious with these. They're very soft metal and you can easily strip the threads in here. And once you strip it, it's over. So you just sort of get it in through the hole, guide it, just lightly turn your drill and it'll find its way. Just lightly, and then button it up. The same for the other side. Lightly. Okay, top two are in. Same thing, don't force it, let it find its way. And we are all in. Cable tie around these wires just to pull them away so that if the kick panel ever has to come off, I'm not driving some service guy nuts. Got to remember that when something goes wrong with the car, the first thing any auto-elec asks is, are there any accessories fitted to the vehicle? It's a known easy fault because the car was delivered working, and then what happened? Well, it happened after this was done. So that's your first go-to if there's ever a problem. So we'll get that kick panel back in. Don't forget your little plug. And you can just push that little plug in. It screws off, but you can just push it in, it'll lock over. Get your trim on right. Get your sill trim back in. And you've got your coin socket that goes back in. Now, you can see here we've got an issue. There's some interference going on, and that's from one of the plugs from that new switch that we put in, the double switch over here. So just get that up and above that factory harness, keep it out the way. There you go. Then we've got the spares. Okay, so I'll just get in over the other side now and I'll show you how I run the cat cable for the plug-in for the UHF handset. We're nearly done. It's not too bad of an install, but you know, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know the car, you don't know your way around it, it can get pretty dramatous. I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to do their own installs, but when it comes down to it, you'd probably want to go and see a professional auto-elec just because there's going to be a lot less damage to the car. Okay, the easiest way to do this is to remove the glove box. Pretty easy. Open it up, pull from the bottom up. Be careful, you've got rubber ends on either side here. So push it to one side, then take it out on an angle. You don't want to lose those rubber ends, and I'm pretty sure this one's already missing. Nope, it's just popped out on the floor. So we've got the glove box out, and then you should be able to reach in and get that cable, that Cat 6 cable that we ran to the back of the radio. And there's our Cat 6. So we're going to go down behind the harnesses here and not interfering with any of the air conditioning mechanisms, because you don't want them fouling out on harnesses or whatever you've got going on down there. All right, and then it's not a matter of removing. The less you can remove on a car the better off you're going to be. So I know that this cable actually can squeeze in between these and these and then tuck in through there without pulling all of this apart and damaging anything. And then we can bundle up the rest, the excess up under here above the tunnel. So I'm just going to go and get a few bits like some double-sided tape and all that and show you how I mount the UHF socket so it doesn't come off, because if anybody knows, plastic gives off gas, and if you just use double-sided tape on this, especially some of the top end tape, it's not going to hold. With them putting that socket in and out, it's just going to come off. So what I do is I put an adhesive promoter underneath the dash here. It's like a sticky on a sticky. So when you put two pieces of double-sided tape together, it's going to hold a lot better than it would just with double-sided tape going onto plastic. And plastic's going to give off that gas, and eventually it's just going to let go. All right, this is what I use. It's a contact fix contact adhesive. So I just get some of this. And onto the top where we're going to put the double-sided tape. Just going to put some of that across there. It just needs to tack off. The adhesion will get stronger and stronger the longer it's there. Once you add a bit of heat and a warm day in the car, this is not going to come off. So I'll just dry that off, and I'm going to go and put some on that underside of where we're going to mount it. I just put some on my finger and I'll go up underneath the dash of where I'm going to mount it. I'll just put that along there so that dries while I work on doing this. So the customer also wanted to mount their handset mount onto a vent mount that they've already got. So I'm just going to like put some contact adhesive on that as well. Okay, so that's their socket that they can just put into their air vent, either one. That's where they can mount their handset. Now, I've already put the contact adhesive under here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this socket in before I can't reach to the back of it. Just take off that adhesive. Right, and we're going to go in these gaps here. So you can see here it fits in there really well. You'll be surprised how it disappears when I actually pull it through properly. Just mount that up to where we had that contact adhesive. Then we can push this all in and through. I'll just go and get a trim tool to push that all through. So you can see without pulling the entire dash apart, we've just hidden the wire into a factory gap and it's gone in there completely behind the plastic. Just get that excess up under the carpet. And we're in. Glove box back in. You'll feel it go onto its slides. Just a quick tap, double check that it's closing and opening properly. Okay, now it's time to test. So always test. I would normally tell you to test along the way to make sure you've got power to things, but I've done this so much that I'm pretty confident in what I do now. All right, so we can just plug in our UHF handset into the socket, which is holding very well. You can see, like I'm wiggling on that and that's not going anywhere. Then he's got his, oops, it's upside down, we'll just pop it on this side. Put his handset there. So start up the car. And then hopefully, sure power's on the top. Power it up. Yep, we've got power. Okay, and then we can just do a quick scan, making sure that we're getting a signal. Hopefully, there's generally not many people around here on UHF, so not sure if we're going to get a signal. Yeah, no, not today. Just want a little bit some sort of static. No static today. It's very quiet on the radio. Right, so we know that that works, and you'll notice that see the red light. So when we turn the car off, the UHF turns off as well. Now we can test the driving lights. Let's get that steering wheel around the right way. So high beam on, and then switch. There we go around to the front. Just out the corner, we've got light shining through, so I know that they're working. Right, so we're just going to test that also the switching the high beam on and off will turn off that switch. So pushing forward. So you can see there the high beam is also controlling those lights. It will not work when high beam's on. We'll just test that new switch that we've got. Okay, so there's an issue there. So we're not getting the rear fan going. So I'll just double check those connections and then come back. All right, so it was working. It's just that I didn't have the dial on the fan at the back turned on. So you can hear it going. Yeah, it's definitely going now. Right, so I'm just also going to check the lift at the back to make sure that that automatic feature is working. All good. All right, so we'll get these switches back in. Harness back in and out the way. Back in. Just got to put that mud flap back on. And the front shroud over the radiator support area, and we are done. Now with these inner guard screws, just be mighty cautious because they're a terrible fit. Just make sure that your captive nuts are right and in the right places. And they're actually not bolts, they're actually like blunt screws. So don't force them. Just turn them with your hand so you know they're going to go in cleanly, because if they go in and they're stripped, they actually tear the back of that captive nut. And the next thing you know, you're hunting for new captive nuts. Last but not least, we've got to get that shroud in over the radiator support. Aha! Yeah, so one thing they did tell me on the STEDI mount is that because we're using existing holes, you can see here the hole for the nut isn't big enough to go through. So yeah, I'm going to have to just open those holes a little bit so that sits flat, and then we can pop in the rest of the plastic parts there. Okay, so now I'll just go over the car and just make sure everything's all back together and double check that everything's cabled down and all right. So yeah, she's all done. Ooh, that new feeling, so satisfying. Okay, so hopefully I've given you a little bit of insight into what I do as a day-to-day job as an auto electrician and accessory fitter. I'm always here to offer my services at Fenris Garage. You can always give me a call or reach out on the channel. And hopefully you've learned something today, especially with the ISUZU platform and how to get your way around not interfering and damaging factory warranties and things like that. Don't forget to subscribe because it helps out the channel, as I've said multiple times before. Until next episode, where we get stuck into the CRX restoration build again. See ya.